All right. Hello, everyone, and a very happy new year to you and yours. I'm really excited to start this new year with positivity and yet another Lean In event on intuition, how to follow your curiosity. I am Amrita Agrawal, and I am the events team lead at the Lean In Canada's Vancouver chapter. And I'm really excited to bring this event to you so that we can all tap into our intuitions to become better decision makers and find some relief from stress as we enter this new year together. Thank you so much for joining us today and supporting Lean In throughout these events. And again, we would love to see your beautiful faces during the event. So please turn on the videos if you're able. We would really love that. We will start today's event with Tasleem's presentation and then open up the floor for any questions that you guys might have. But before we get started, I would like to encourage you all to become members of our Lean In Canada community so that you can stay up to date on our events this year. It's really easy. You just have to sign up on the website and you'll become a member. Now, for the event that you've all been waiting for. I am so happy to introduce Tasleem as a speaker for the event today. Tasleem Jessani is a strategic HR leader, executive coach, and the founder of Rubik's Coaching. She empowers organizational leadership teams by honing in on their strengths to spark passion, motivation, and energy to drive professional and personal results. Tasleem has over a decade of experience in HR, working for large organizations such as Prospera Credit Union, Intact Insurance, Boeing, CHC Helicopter, and more. She has had a successful career partnering with executive leadership teams to accelerate their transformations to high-performing and engaged teams. We welcome you today, Tasleem. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Amrita. What a great intro. I guess I wrote it, so it should be good, right? um, just kidding, you guys. But I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you for having me. So as Amrita said, I am the founder of Rubik's Coaching. I am an executive and an intuitive coach, but I'm also an HR manager at Prospera Credit Union. And so for me, this topic is really important and is something that I find is so prevalent right now. It's something that people want to know more about. Definitely, coming from corporate world and just work-life balance and just everything that we do every day, honing in on intuition is something that can just be of such power that I felt this topic would be very relevant to you guys today. So my topic or my agenda today is sorry, just a second. There we go. So I'll talk a little bit about why intuition is important, and then talk a little bit about the relationship between intuition and curiosity, so that you can get an understanding of how curiosity can actually help you to discover what is really intuition and how it's speaking to you. And then it's going to be really important for you to be able to distinguish what is the intuitive voice, because we have a lot of mind chatter that goes on all day, and you want to be able to distinguish what the difference is and how to know it's your intuition speaking. And then I'd like to send you away with some really practical tools, things you can take away and do in your day-to-day that will help you start discovering your intuitive voice. And then we'll close off for some questions. Okay, so it's a packed agenda, but it will be really fun. So I want to start off with a poll, and this is an opportunity just to introduce the subject of intuition. So Amrita is going to help me with this, but the first poll question should be up on your screen. And the question is, have you ever accepted that job that you just knew wouldn't be right for you? Oh, look at the answers. Awesome. I can see a lot of yeses. Great. Yeah. So we have 59% yeses and 41% no's. And I think that's really shows, kind of that intuition of you knew it was a no, but you still went ahead and did it. So that's an example, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. The second question is, have you ever gone with the crowd in a meeting, even though you disagreed, just to avoid being the outsider or to be the one that's going against the grain. Okay. Yeah, 79%. Huge chunk of you, right? I know I'm in that category for sure. Okay. So the last question is, have you ever gone on a date or, like went into a relationship or stayed in a relationship longer than you would have liked? And you knew it wasn't right for you, that date or that relationship wasn't right for you, but you stayed longer, you went ahead and did it anyway. Fair number. I'm just looking on the other screen because the results are on there. All right, 87%. That's incredible. Awesome. Thank you for your participation in that. So, as I mentioned, right, these are like, I have to say, the most common scenarios where we do something, even though we have that gut instinct. And I feel like those are the scenarios usually we look back and we're like, "Ah, I should have just followed my gut. I should have just, I knew something wasn't right, but I did it anyway. And I don't know why, but I shouldn't have. So that's intuition right there. And so we're going to talk more about that. But that was great. And I'm glad we got to sort of see these results. Okay. So, why is intuition important? So, as a general statement, what I can say is our society is quote unquote unwell. Just seeing that stress is determined as a health epidemic, burnout is a big issue worldwide. We have so many anxiety levels increasing, and I don't know if it's necessarily the anxiety levels are increasing or if it's so much that they're coming to the surface more. But what's happening is we're having more and more cases without really having any resolution or helping people to overcome them. What I see more often than not is just fixes, right? So this is how you can manage your anxiety. This is how you can manage your depression. But what about actually just reducing it altogether? There's not a lot of stuff to help with that. And on top of that, our to-do lists are growing. And then we're in the middle of a pandemic. And what I'm finding is that people are just struggling with, having to have these to-do lists, but being at home and are just really overwhelmed. And further, when we look at spirituality, and I have to talk about some level, I have to talk about spirit because I'm going to talk about meditation, mindfulness, and intuition. And the thing is, spirituality is so closely tied to religious dogmas. It's so, as soon as you talk about spirituality, there's a little bit of hesitance or it may be tied to something more on a religious basis, that it's created a fear in connecting to ourselves and going inward. And the purpose of discovering intuition is more just around getting to connect with yourself, and self with a capital S. And so that's why intuition is so important, is that we need the opportunity to go inwards so that we can reduce all the anxiety, the to-dos, and the stress that we're feeling. Because of the generalized discomfort to go inwards, which, a lot of people during the pandemic, what I've heard is, I just need to get outside and I don't like that I can't see the people, like that I usually see, or can't do the activities I usually do. And that's so normal. Like, I know I feel it too. But I also hear people saying, I just don't know what to do. Like, I feel like I'm just stuck. I feel like I need to do something, but I also feel stuck. And so then they feel this discomfort to go inwards and try to explore what's happening. And so people are tending to turn to like busying themselves and distracting, soothing, like self-soothing substances, a lot more drinking of alcohol, a lot more binge watching TV. Not necessarily that binge watching TV is bad, but again, when it starts to become sort of more destructive behaviors, that's when we want to get ahead of them. But scrolling social media and all those things to keep ourselves busy instead of actually taking that time to go inward and just really explore what's going on internally. So intuition is really important because if we can get ahead of that and understand the discomfort discomfort, we can find so much peace and freedom in there. And it can really help you and go a long way. So, what's the connection between intuition and curiosity? So, the body has within it all the power to heal. And by that, what I mean is if we can take a step back and talk about stress, when we are under a high amount of stress, what we're essentially doing is we're going into fight or flight mode. And I think you probably are all familiar with the fact that we have fight or flight mode in our bodies because we need to get out of immediate danger, right? That saber-toothed tiger is running after you, you need to get away. But we actually are in constant fight or flight with the stress levels, the to-dos. We are in such a state of fight or flight, it's affecting a great number of people's hormonal levels, whether they're male, female, doesn't matter. And so that high stress level, the high cortisol in our bodies start to take effect when we start seeing gut issues and digestive issues. We see more autoimmune conditions and allergies, sleeping issues, infertility issues. And so all these things are happening because of the stress. And what we do then is we look to go to naturopaths and doctors and what can I do to fix this? And what medicine can I take or supplements or what do I need to do to fix this? And while meditative practices are some that are very encouraged for this, I don't think that there's a good understanding of the link of why meditation can help heal some of these things so well. So if we take the opportunity to quiet the mind and understand our emotions and get to know our systems, this is where the beauty is. So this is where curiosity comes in, is when we go into a meditative practice, we want to get curious. We want to understand. Remember those poll questions. Like remember when you didn't want to do something, but you did it. What was your body telling you? What were the physical sensations you were feeling that your body was telling you this is not the right thing to do? And when you get really good at this in meditation and also just the daily practices of emotional work, and I'll go through some of that with you later in today's presentation, you will start to be able to understand how your body tells you this is a yes, this is right for me. This is a no, this is not right for me. And the more we follow those and release our emotions in a healthy way, we will start to see less disease in our bodies. Okay. So it's really important to link intuition and curiosity, and because it's actually curiosity that's the gateway for us getting to our intuitive voice. So intuition is known as our deep wisdom, that knowing voice, that one that was like, I knew the doorbell was going to ring, or I knew the phone was going to ring, I knew you'd call me. Like that's intuition, right? And alignment is something that just feels right. It's, when we make a decision that's aligned, it feels good. So intuition, listening to our intuitive voice, helps us make decisions that are more aligned with us. And the more aligned we are with our path, our purpose, what we want to do in our lives, the more ease we feel. And that's what we want to get to today. When we're doing something that's not in alignment, that's when we feel discomfort. And so I want to clarify, when you're following your intuitive voice, that doesn't mean you'll never feel discomfort. You will likely feel that the discomfort is needed. Like I'm doing something that's uncomfortable, but I know it's the right thing for me. This is the discomfort that you know doesn't feel right for you. That job that you took that you shouldn't have taken, and you start to look back and think, why is, you're in a job you're not enjoying, for example. Why am I not enjoying it? And starting to look at the contrast. So again, getting curious. Contrast means I'm looking at, why don't I like this job? If I could change it, what would I change about it? What would I want it to be for me to feel good, for me to feel right? And that's when we're trying to create clarity. So I always see discomfort as an opportunity to look at the contrast that will create the clarity, that this is why it doesn't work for me. So what will actually work for me? And then you strive towards the more aligned piece. So again, that requires curiosity. It requires getting into daily meditative practices so that you can quiet your mind voice, that monkey mind, the mental mind, this is going all the time. That's what we want to quiet so we can hear our intuitive voice. So you're probably wondering, what is my intuitive voice? So this is where you can distinguish a difference. There's a lot of stuff on the slides, but I'm just gonna walk you through it. It's just meant to be so you can see the contrast. Let's talk about your mind voice. It's often called ego voice as well. The mind voice is very fear-based. And so if you can think of an example of, let's say you're going down the stairs and you miss a step and you fall. The mind voice will be like, first of all, it will probably go into some negative chatter like, oh, how did I do that? I can't believe I did that, and all these things. So it has critical chatter, it's negative, it kind of just goes on and on. But also it's very past focused. And so you'll probably go down those steps again. It'll be like, your mind voice will be like, be careful, you fell down last time. Maybe you should go this way, or maybe you should walk this way. In some cases, if those steps take you, let's say, to your backyard, your mind voice might even say, you know what, you fell on those steps last time, so why don't you go out the front and then go around to the back? And that's the voice that actually causes a lot of anxiety and cyclical thinking, because we get caught up in this feeling of, if I do it again, I will make a big mistake, or I'll be unsafe. And so it starts to tell us ways to get around it or do it differently. And it may not be the best way, because now we are avoiding something that doesn't necessarily need to be avoided. So it's often filled with worries and judgments. Like, it'll say, this is good, this is bad. It'll categorize things. It'll be very logical. And it's not always bad. Logic is a good thing, and we need logic in our lives, but we need a balance between logic and intuition. And so you'll find the mind voice is more impulsive. It's going to try to control, like it'll try to control an outcome, or it might feel like you're grasping at trying to get something to happen for you. And so this is where our perfectionistic mindset comes from. It's very critical. So the perfectionism comes from this mind voice. The intuitive voice, you probably would have guessed it, is very loving, supportive, positive, right? It has your best interests at heart. So that's the voice that comes and says, it's okay, or this is good, or you're doing your best. It's very compassionate. And it'll come to you more as a feeling. So I've worked with many people who will say, I'm so in my head. And that's exactly the feeling of the mind voice. You're in your head. The intuitive voice will come from your body. And when I work with people, especially even with my executive coaching, people come in and they're like, I need a career plan, or I need a solution for this problem, or I'm having problems with my employees and I need to manage them out, or all these things. They come to me. And the first thing I like to do is just get them into their bodies. And that's not even necessarily with meditation, but I'll just start to ask them, what's the emotion you're feeling? Where are you feeling it right now? And if they're having trouble making a decision, I start to ask them what they're feeling. That's because I'm trying to draw out their intuitive senses, their gut instincts. So it comes more from the body. It won't come from the head. It's an inner knowingness, and it comes to you in a time of flow. So the best way I can describe to you flow is when you're engaged in an activity that is, the time just flew by and you didn't even know it. A lot of people feel flow when they're, those moments when you are in the shower and those ideas come to you. That's flow. Exercising, or cooking. A lot of people feel that with cooking, gardening, creative stuff, painting. Like, a lot of people feel when they're doing something like that, they feel in flow. Those are the times when you'll get those aha moments or those connections. Like, the mind voice will put together a bunch of information, almost like a business case, and logicize and spin its wheels. Intuitive voice will come to you as an aha, and it'll just out of nowhere, and it will make a connection that will just make complete sense. And you're like, oh, I think I know how I want to move forward with this. That's your intuition. So it observes the mind chatter. Okay. So if you're getting involved in the mind chatter, you're getting involved with mind voice. You want to encourage yourself to just step back and ask what's happening with the mind chatter, and just observe what's going on. It's present and it's forward looking. Like, it'll look at that, unsafe situation, and it'll tell you more. I sense something's happening. I should probably do this. It won't sort of look at past occurrences and say, don't do this because last time you did it, you got yourself in trouble. Yeah, and it feels like truth. It adds a richness to your life. So it'll feel good. When you listen to that voice, it'll feel good. It'll feel right. So I hope that gives you a little bit of clarity on the difference. And I know I've done a lot of talking, but just bear with me because now we're getting into the good stuff. I want to get into sort of some things you can take away that that you will, enjoy as a practice to try to spark up your intuition. So yeah, just bear with me, but let's just go into that, and then I'm going to do a little activity with you. So the first thing that I would suggest you do is to start a meditation practice. Now, there's a lot of discrepancy on what meditation is and what meditation isn't. Meditation is basically an act of clearing the mind. And what you're doing is you're just focusing on an opportunity to have more bigger gaps between thoughts. So, what I mean by that is a lot of people walk into meditation and feel like they failed because they have lots of thoughts that come into their meditation. Everybody's going to have thoughts. That's just the way we work. But what we do in meditation is just practice focusing in on that time between thoughts. So you know how if I just asked you right now, I can see some of you, but not all of you on the screen. But if I did an activity where I asked you to raise your hand when you have your next thought, and then you kind of go, that time before you raise your hand is the gap. That's called a gap. And we want to widen that gap. We just want to try and quiet the mind. We just want to allow that a thought comes in and just gently letting it go, almost like cars on a highway. Like it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. And then slowly the time between will widen. But that just comes with your practice. But you're not failing if you're having thoughts. And I think a lot of people give up because they think that they shouldn't have any thoughts, and that's impossible. Okay. So when it comes to meditation versus mindfulness, because I know there's a lot of mindfulness practices out there, but mindfulness is that the act of getting yourself to just get into current state. So you're just trying to get yourself out of like, some sort of ruminating and just think currently, like, what do I see? What you usually use your senses, kind of what do I see right now? What do I smell right now? What do I feel right now? And it just gets you into current state. And so mindfulness practices will often get you there. Drink that tea, sip it, taste it, smell it, that kind of thing. Meditation is to actively, as I said, quiet the mind. You're trying to get embodied, which mindfulness does as well, but meditation gets you embodied. And it also has a focus getting you more into a delta wave. And the delta wave, what I mean by that is that state that we get into just as we're about to fall asleep, that sort of subconscious state. That's the state we're wanting to achieve to get into a true meditative state. And as you practice more and more, you can get to that state. But again, just getting you to understand every day is not going to be the same. Some days you'll have difficulty with staying focused. Some days you won't. But the days you show up and you do it when you can't stay focused and your monkey mind's just going bananas, so to speak, that's the time when you're really using the practice and building the muscle. Those days when you're so tired and you still do your workout, those are the days you feel the most growth and strength. That's what that is. So you just got to stick to it. Start small, make it easy, find a guided meditation you enjoy, and listen to it first thing when you wake up in the morning, or listen to it before you go to bed. And that's the easiest way to just start getting it into your life so that you could start to quiet your mind. And don't worry if you fall asleep while you're doing it. That's great. That's totally okay. So you just got to give yourself some space and compassion to start it. And so what I'd like to do is take you guys through a brief meditation right now. So I just want to take you to through a 2 to 3 minute meditation. I just want to be mindful of the time as well. So wherever you are right now, and if your video is on, no worries. You can go ahead and lie down if you have a spot, or just get comfortable on your seat. You can turn off your video for a minute if you want, if you're uncomfortable, and then turn it back on. But I am going to keep my video on. You can see me with my eyes closed and leading you through this. But just get yourself comfortable. If you're sitting on the chair or if you're lying on the floor, I invite you to just close your eyes And I'm sure you all had such busy days today, and you came in from a busy work day or busy day in life. And so this is your time to just take some really, really nice deep breaths into your abdomen and exhale with a big breath. And just keep taking some big breaths in your abdomen. And when you're breathing in, I want you to just concentrate on bringing the breath into your abdomen. And if it's going into your chest, that's completely okay. But just try to make the breath relaxing. And on each out breath, just try to make your body heavier and more relaxed and sink deeper and deeper into the chair you're sitting in or the floor you're lying on. And just get yourself settled. And now bring your focus on your feet and just think about those toes and the arches in your feet and your heels and just how tired they are. And breathe right into those feet and look for tensions. Where does it feel tight? And just breathe into those tensions and exhale. And when you exhale, just let the tension go. And you, as you work your way up, just think of your ankles and your calves, your knees, your thighs. Just think of your legs and take a deep breath into your legs and just scan for any tensions. And then when you breathe out, just release it all out of your body and make your legs nice and heavy and relaxed and limp. Just let all those tensions go. And continue to take in some deep inhales and look at your hips and your abdomen. Scan for tension and just release. And breathe into your chest. And as you're breathing into your chest and exhaling, I want you to picture your heart. And in that heart space, I want you to picture a really bright green light. And it's almost like an emerald. It's so bright, it's so glittery, and it shines out and it expands out of your body and into the room that you're in. And with that green light comes a lot of love and energy that just expands in the room and expands and spreads around your body. And with the inhale, just breathe in that green light. And with the exhale, spread the green light all over your body and give it some love and let it relax. And as you take your next inhale, spread that green light up into your neck and into your shoulders. Those shoulders must be so tight after a long day. Just scan for tensions and release. And now I want you to bring your focus to your head and your thoughts. And just notice where the tensions are. And take a deep breath into your head, into those thoughts. Give it some space, scan for tension. And with the biggest exhale, just release. Let it all go. Let the day go. Drop your shoulders. Drop your hips. Drop your knees. Drop your ankles and just relax. Okay. So I'm opening my eyes now, but please, I encourage you, if you're in a relaxed position right now, just stay there. You can work your way back up to the screen in your own time, but I don't want anyone to have to pop out of a relaxed state if you're there. You'll probably love listening to the rest of the content if you're in this state. But the whole purpose of that, honestly, was just that's as simple as it is to get into a meditative bodied state. That was a simple body scan, a tension release, I like to call it. And there's a lot of body scans available out there on YouTube and on different meditation apps. But really, it's as simple as this, is just taking some deep breaths and getting into your body and scanning for tensions and releasing. What you're doing is you're getting yourself out of fight or flight. Because when you're in a fight or flight state, you are not embodied, you're leaving your body. And so just by scanning tensions and releasing and getting heavier, And for some people, it works better to say you're getting lighter. So it's up to you what works better for you. But that heaviness actually allows you to get into your body. And so we get out of fight or flight and we're able to let go of a lot of the monkey mind at that point. So just doing something as simple as that is actually the best thing you could do for you. And quite honestly, if you're in a state where you are feeling fight or flight, you're in that meeting at work and you're really stressed, or you just said something in a meeting and you're ruminating and you're like, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? What did they think of me? Or someone told you something at work or at home and really upset you, and our mind is ruminating. It's just overplaying that thought. I encourage you to just lie down, because immediately lying down on the floor gets you out of fight or flight, and then just do a simple body scan and tension release, and you will be so much in a better state, and you'll actually break the cycle of that ruminating thought that your monkey mental mind is going through. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. So the next thing I want to give you is a tool, and that is, to help you with sort of emotions and how you can start to approach emotions. So with emotions, what I find in the work that I do is all of us, every single one of us has some issues with addressing and releasing emotions in a healthy way. And this often comes from growing up and childhood and how we have internalized the way our parents have responded to emotions, the way our teachers have taught us to show our emotions. And of course, we're taught so much that, look, there's certain emotions we just don't have time for. So if you're angry and you're crying, or you're upset, and especially as children, if you're crying and you're in a school environment or often with parents, it can be, just grow up. Or especially for men, this is an issue where it's, you can't cry. You're a man, you're a boy. And so for women, definitely in corporate organizations, I find there's a lot of women who sort of internalize this feeling like they're too emotional. And they will say it, like in meetings I have with them. I'm in HR, so I have lots of discussions where a woman might come in and say, she might say, like, this meeting happened and I'm really upset. And what Sorry, I think I just wanted to, something is here right now okay. So she might be, sorry, there was something on the screen and I just wanted to make sure it's not blocking your guys' view. So she might say, I'm really upset. And I just, had this meeting and I had this discussion, and she'll say, I got overly emotional about it. And so again, we sort of carry that with us, and then we don't allow an opportunity to just we have some compassion for ourselves, why we reacted that way. So what I encourage you to do is to, first of all, just start to explore, where do you hang out emotionally? Okay. So as a basic, just set a reminder every day, 2 times, 3 times a day. Just set a reminder that says for you to note how you're feeling. You will notice that you may not have wide range of um, a wide range of vocabulary to describe your emotions, because we tend to hang out at certain emotions. Like we might say, I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or I'm, happy, or we kind of use these basic emotions. But if you actually Google a list of emotions, there's a lot of them. So with this task, what I encourage you to do is to set a reminder, and then just write down the emotion, but use a list and that you look on the internet and find an emotion that matches how you're feeling, and start to explore other emotions, because that may not be you might not always hang out in anger. It might be in disappointment. It might be in sadness. It might be in surprise. It could be different things that are triggering the anger. Okay, so that's very basic and very easy thing for you guys to be able to do. And then just take a moment to ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? So you can do that when you note it down, or you could maybe look at it at the end of the week or on the weekend when you're feeling a little more relaxed, and then just look back and be like, wow, I tend to hang out at guilt a lot. And if that's the case, then why, what is that emotion trying to tell me? And the reason I say that is because when you look at things like anger, usually anger is prompted by like a violation of a boundary. So a lot of people who do get angry, often they, one, don't know how to regulate that emotion. But two, it's probably happening, they don't know how to regulate because they don't understand why they're getting angry. They've just been told all their life, you shouldn't get angry. And so understanding that perhaps you had something got violated, a core value or something that's very important to you was violated, or your privacy or your boundaries were violated, whatever it is, you will be able to then say, oh, I understand why I got angry. Here's a way I can build a boundary to avoid this in the future, or effectively communicate when somebody is violating that boundary so I don't turn to anger as a response. Okay. But the anger at first is a prompt for you. And you'll start to get to know your system. Like, for example, I know I'm getting angry because I can feel it in my gut. So some people will feel certain emotions when they get starting to get angry, and they feel it. We call it, bubbling up. Like lots of people call it bubbling up. When you feel that anger bubbling up, you'll know, oh, there's a reason that's happening, and you'll be able to actually look in hindsight. But as a beginning, I'd say setting that reminder and then just asking yourself, getting curious, what is this emotion trying to tell you is the most important. And then get embodied. So when you are getting into a meditation practice, get yourself into your body and just ask your body, when I feel anger, where do I feel it? Or when I felt that emotion, or when that situation happened to me, what emotion was I feeling? Where do I feel that emotion? This is your opportunity to now start to work to release the emotion. So when we talk about releasing emotions, what you need to understand is we don't want an emotion to come and then we tell it, we need you to go away. We shouldn't have this focus on, "Oh, I just had this angry outburst. I'm angry. I need it to go away." Because what you're doing is you're suppressing the emotion. When you suppress emotions, they get stuck in your body. And then you feel pain because those areas are inflamed. That's really what emotions do. But if you can actually get into an embodied state, just like we just did with my meditation that I just did, and then just ask yourself, where do I feel the anger? And then almost imagine that anger in a way that resonates with you, but maybe it's like a tight ball of yarn, something like that. And each breath is bringing in space into that emotion. Each breath is allowing the emotion to expand, open up, and release. And that will likely bring some other emotion. It might bring tears. It might bring another emotion to the surface that's underneath the anger or whatever you're feeling. And so that is how you can effectively release the emotion. It may not happen in one go, but it will happen over time. And it's the healthier way to address and allow the emotion to do what it needs to do in your body, and then release. Okay. And so with that process, what a great thing you can do is also just track your thoughts. So when you have an emotional response, you may then, once you're good at kind of just noting your emotions, what you may want to do is just add an extra step and just note what triggered that emotional response. And what thought that did I have that triggered that response? And then just noting, was it a negative response? And then starting to work on some thought pattern work, which again, bigger topic, probably need another session for that. But those are some basic things you can do to start to work with your emotions. And this helps a lot in day-to-day corporate life or busy work life or work-life balance, because we get triggered by so many different things because we're so stressed and overwhelmed. But this allows you time to slow down and explore. And another tool that you can use, which I've included in the presentation and you will receive after, is this, it's called an emotional guidance scale. So the emotional guidance scale is basically talking about emotions in terms of what negative vibration emotions are and positive vibration emotions. So let me explain that. Everything, when you look at quantum physics, everything has a vibration, okay? And like attracts like. So if you are in a low emotion such as guilt, that is, it's a low vibration emotion. So you're vibrating very low. But if you want in your life that amazing career, or you want freedom or happiness or love or whatever it is, right? Satisfaction, whatever it is, if that's at a higher vibration, see all those emotions are up here, right? joy, freedom, all those are up here. So when that happens, when you want something that's up here, but you're vibrating here, you can't attract the two. You can't get the two to align. You need to bring yourself up to the vibration that you're trying to match. So how do you do that? Well, basically what I want to take away today is, if you're in guilt, just know you can't jump from guilt to joy. Okay, there's no way you can do that, because it's way too high of a vibration. If you look at um, guilt and you look at joy, there's way too many steps in between. The way this works is emotions go up this chain. Okay, so guilt will go up to jealousy, then to hatred, then to rage. And I have to point out, guilt is a lower vibration than rage. So that's important for you to know, because honestly, if you're angry, it's actually better than if you're in guilt. So you know those moments when you feel really guilty and then you're like, oh, why did that person make me feel that way? And then you get into anger. You're moving up the vibration scale, and it's actually positive. What you don't want to do is get stuck in anger for hours and hours and then ruminate here. You want to keep moving up the ladder, and you need to find things that will help you get there. So oftentimes, for example, if you're in a very destructive mood and you kind of in guilt or insecurity or powerlessness, and you just can't get out of it, find something that just feels good, right? This is a time when you can go for a walk. You could go watch a really great TV show or eat something really good. Spend time with people you love and get yourself into a bit of a higher vibration. And also, if you just start to note that, oh, I just went from guilt to anger. Oh my gosh, I'm moving up the ladder. And then you notice, I'm starting to get impatient. Okay, that's good. Each time you're moving up, and then that point when you hit boredom, you are there where you're starting to go up to the positive vibrations. When you move up to the positive vibrations, that's where you start moving up faster. Okay, so you need to just find things, identify like, where do you hang out here, and then find tools for yourself that helps you get out of that. And oftentimes that can be meditation, or that can be some self-care time. So that's a tool that I thought might be helpful for you to take away to sort of manage your emotions as well. Okay. All right. So the last thing that I briefly want to touch on is what's called the window of tolerance. So for all of us, we have a window of tolerance, and we have a state that's called optimal arousal. So this is the state where we are aroused in an optimum level. So like our day to day, if we're working, we're enjoying what we're doing. We might be with our kids or families, or and we're feeling positive, we're feeling good. That's our optimal range. Okay, and that's this range here. If you go above that range, you're in hypoarousal, and that often is panic, anxiety. Let me just zoom in here. So you might get into sort of an anxiety state, or you start reacting in anger. If you go below your optimal arousal state, so you're under aroused, so to speak, you're feeling numbness and shut down, and there's things going on there. That's more of a depressive state. This is more of an anxiety state. For everybody, our optimal arousal varies. If you have a high amount of stress in your life, your optimal window is going to be small, which means it takes the littlest triggers to get you to go up or down. Okay, so what we want to do is widen your window. And if you're under high stress, lots of to-dos, lots of negative self-talk and chatter, and lots of repressed emotions, your window is smaller and smaller, you're going to go into anxiety pretty fast when you're hypo-aroused or hyper-aroused, and you're going to go into depression if you're hypo-aroused. Okay, so to widen that window, you've got to do some really great self-care techniques. So if I could just zoom out here, you want to do the stuff we talked about today: meditation practices, journaling, practicing gratitude. Gratitude is known to widen the window and gets us into positive states, and it increases our emotional vibration. You see how it relates to the emotional vibration scale. So because gratitude gets us to think in a more grateful state, which is higher vibration, we can get out of negative pattern thinking pretty quickly if we practice gratitude every day. Emotion and negative thought work, I talked about a lot. Nutritious diet and movement, taking care of yourself, self-care, and movement that feels good, not strenuous workouts that you don't enjoy, but good stuff that feels good. And sometimes heavy lifting and strenuous activity does feel good, but that has to feel right and aligned for you. And that's your intuition that's going to tell you that, right? And making meaningful connections, like taking time in the day to, talk to the person that you really wanted to, or spend time with your family and really connect. All those things really widen the window, and setting boundaries and telling people what you need. And the wider our window is, the more we'll be able to go up and down with more stimulation and less stimulation, and still stay in a balanced state versus going into anxiety and depression. So these are the few tools I want you to take away. And the reason they're important is this is the basic work that you need to do to start to clear out the emotions you're holding you don't need to anymore, the issues that you are kind of holding on to, so that you can start to relax into your meditation and listen to your intuitive voice. And that takes a process. But if you do this work and you work on it really diligently, the intuitive voice comes to you like that. Your confidence in your intuition is going to grow so fast that you'll suddenly be like, I didn't even know what it felt like when I couldn't hear my intuitive voice. Okay, so these are really great tools for you to take away. I just really wanted to briefly say that if this is interesting to you, I offer programs to support this kind of thing. I do a Wise Women's program. It is for women only, specifically because I go into women's issues, but that doesn't mean I discount anyone who's not a woman. It's just that that's what the program, because a lot of it is based on sort of things that have come up over the years for women, but certainly that doesn't mean that I would discount anyone else. But I am doing a program right now. It just started on Tuesday. I offer these quarterly, but we go into all the stuff we talked about. I go through tools. I do a weekly live session, and and we get into the sort of process of working on all these elements. We get into a meditation process. We do it as a community, and we start to spark intuition. So if you're interested ever in this kind of program, like I said, I just started the session on Tuesday. I did the first session, but if anybody on this call is interested in joining, I have a couple of spots left, and I could probably fill you in on the first session, what happened. But if you are interested in future for anything like that, just go to my website and sign up for my mailing list, because I do let my mailing list know when I'm releasing these sessions. Okay. And other things that I offer to support, I just wanted you to be aware that I do a 28-day meditation challenge every few months or so. And I do 28 days of daily, I send a new meditation and have the group talk to each other about their experience. And it's a motivation tool, but also the meditations are designed to spark intuition. And so we go through that process, and I offer Q&A support and all that. So the next one I'm planning to do is in March. So again, sign up for my mailing list, because I will notify my mailing list that I'm going to be doing it. It's absolutely free. It's something to just get momentum going and to start a healthy habit of meditating. And so I'd love if you joined in that, or if that's something of interest to you. And then, of course, I do private one-on-one coaching. So I do executive and I do intuitive, or I do a combination. So that's something I offer as well, which is all on my website. Okay, so at this point, I know I did a lot of talking, but I wanted an opportunity to address any questions.
So if you have any question, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask away, or you can type your question in the chat box as well, whichever you're comfortable with.
Tasleem, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi. So first of all, this is excellent. Thank you so much. Do you have any tools for when you're in a situation where you can tell you're going into flight or fright, and or fawn or freeze, and you can't lie down on the floor, right? And do you have anything to just sort of quickly snap yourself out and address things before you go into damage control?
Yes, that's a really good question. So there's lots of things you can do. It depends on how good, or I don't want to say good, how practice the person is to get themselves out of fight or flight. So when someone's in extreme trauma, okay, and they're going, you know, it might be like to the point of panic, the best thing is to do something that can snap you out of it in a physical way. So for example, splashing cold water in your face can help, or doing something that um, gets you to concentrate on a sensation versus the emotion or the mind chatter. So even sometimes touching something really cold can help. You know, so having, you know, if you're kind of, if you're thinking you're at work or you're in a state where you can't just, there you go, you have it. Yes. Those things can immediately get us out for a second into a different, yeah, I see some, yes, there you go. So we need to just snap out of that first. If you then, you know, continue to hopefully get into meditative practices, what I encourage you to do is just get comfortable with belly breathing. So when you're getting into a fight or flight state and you're starting to sense that, if you can honestly just breathe into your belly and release, breathe into your belly, and you don't have to do like a big exhale, just even if you're sitting at your desk and you're talking to somebody and they're talking, and at that moment, if you just do some belly breaths, that can actually really help you get out of fight or flight. There's something about, there's more to it actually, and I go through it in my program, but it's that abdomen breathing is exactly what you need to do to get yourself out of fight or flight. So that's a great tool.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I hope that answered your question. You're
Yes.
welcome, Sherry.
Tasleem, we have another question. So are any of your service offerings reimbursable under insurance from work or mental health billing?
That's such a good question. So because I'm an intuitive coach, no, they're not under insurance because it's coaching and it's not any sort of counseling. But with the executive side of coaching, they can be reimbursable if your organization supports it. So I bring in intuitive coaching into, because they are interconnected, as you could see today. So if that is something that's of an option to you, then for sure, if your organization supports it, you could do that.
Another question that we have is, can you suggest any guided meditation resources?
Yes, so there's a couple of apps. There's the Calm app a lot of people use, CALM, Calm, like when you're feeling calm. There's an insights timer. That's actually a really great one a lot of people use. I honestly go to YouTube a lot. There's so many there. And so YouTube is a great one. I hear all sorts of different ones from different people. So I think if people have suggestions on here, what ones you use, if you want to share in the chat, that can be really helpful. But those ones are really good ones. And then again, if you wanted to join my meditation challenge, then I would release those meditations to you and you'd have lifetime access to those. So that's also another resource for you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We have another question. Do you have any other resources for stress-related digestive issues?
Oh, I guess it depends on what kind of resources you are looking for. But of course, when you have digestive issues, I would highly recommend seeing a naturopath or someone who is specialized in that area. I definitely have and know people that I can refer you to. So if anybody wanted to reach out to me after this, feel free. My email address is on the presentation. So you are more than welcome to email me and I can try and find some resources and connect you or make a referral. But those are typically, again, if you want to tackle an immediate issue and it's a health issue, I encourage you to go to the right health practitioner to deal with those. But when you're trying to now heal it and start to move past it and prevent it from flaring up again, you want to get into these practices I talked about today. So that's sort of like a preventative tool.
Thank you so much for that, Tasleem. So another question that we have is, what suggestion do you have on dealing with impatience feelings?
Oh, yeah. Um, Okay, so let's kind of work back with impatience and talk and think about, again, impatience is trying to probably tell you something. It's probably wanting to, I'm going to guess, grasp at something. Um, if you're trying to grasp at an outcome, that's probably your mental mind is telling you that there's something you need to do, and you probably want to ask yourself why. Why does this need to happen at this urgency right now? If you're following something intuitive, it won't have urgency to it. You'll start to notice your intuitive voice just pops up all the time. So if you're forgetting something, your intuitive voice will just come up. But if something is impatience, I'm willing to bet your mental mind is telling you, I need to control this outcome for it to go the right way that I need it to. Something's going on there. So I would want to untangle that a bit and perhaps, like I said, giving it some space, doing some breathing, closing your eyes, doing some breathing, getting out of your head for a minute and giving some space, because impatience reduces space between you and what you're trying to get done. And if you can try to just visualize starting to give yourself some space between that, and so that you can observe it and understand what's happening and why you want it to happen the way it is, you might be able to actually respond to it and do something that feels less, I don't know, like with impatience, I think of like aggressive a little bit, like I want this to happen. So I think that's what I would take from it, but I need to understand the situation better.
Thank you so much, Tasleem, for that. Another question that we have is, do you offer shorter lunch and learn speaking engagements, suppose for an employee resource group, for example?
Yes, absolutely, I do. Those are all things I offer under my Rubik's coaching organization. So if that's something of interest to you, definitely send me an email. The thing is that normally what I would do is work with an organization to offer something like that. I currently am not offering anything that's sort of like anyone can join, like I'm offering it and anyone can join. I'm not currently offering that right now because I have my Wise Women's program and things like that. But if that is of interest, I could certainly look into putting something together. And so again, if you just send me an email and I know there's people that are interested, I can certainly set something up and then send out a note and get some people to join just like you did today. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tasleem. That's really nice of you. So one more question. So it's a question about following your meditation on a larger path, but losing touch with intuition on a day-to-day basis. So having doubts as you move towards what you feel intuitively as correct. So that's the question.
So can you like just tell me that question again? Is a person trying to understand what to do in that situation, or can you just tell me that again?
I can clarify. I asked the question and I made a typo.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Megan.
So if you like, I'm moving on a larger intuitive feeling career path. Like yesterday, I had a really, just off day, and I was like, what am I doing? This is wrong. So just, do you have any words of wisdom when you feel like larger context is I feel intuitively I'm going in the right direction, but when you just have those doubts?
Yes, 100%. I can so relate because I felt that very much as I was starting up Rubik's coaching and moving towards intuitive coaching and thinking, how does this relate to executive coaching? And so I totally understand that feeling. So what I can tell you is you're definitely going to have those days, and likely this is your mental mind creeping up. And there's a few things. Is one, as we start to work with your system, understanding the emotions, how when your body's telling you yes, when your body's telling you no, those things will help. And so when you have an off day, it's nice to lie down if you can and meditate. But in the meditation, you could just kind of get yourself relaxed and then just ask yourself, remind me of a time when I felt a strong yes. And you'll probably come up with a memory. You can ask the question, is my name Megan? And then your body will probably give you some physical prompt that you'll say, okay, I think that's a yes. It reminds me of the way I felt when there was another yes. it will probably remind you of how you felt when you decided to make this decision of this career path. And reminding yourself of your yes will start to also remind you of what it feels when it's not a yes. And you can start to just explore, like, the way I'm feeling today, the doubts I'm feeling, are those real? Like, just starting to ask that, and then noticing the feeling you get in your body. I bet you that the second you remind yourself the purpose, you get yourself back to that feeling of when you made the decision to do this, that yes will overpower the doubts. And your intuition is pretty amazing. If you do something like that and then you go for a walk, just let it kind of go and just go for a walk, you'll start getting these prompts from your intuition that will start to make sense of why you're feeling doubts. And it will also be very compassionate. So you'll start to hear that voice that everybody has bad days. Oh, today's just a tough day. I came into this because of this. It's so compassionate, and it just can't help itself. It'll come out. But I think what you, again, need to do is just give space between that low day and allow that compassion. And so if you could just, like I said, like, do get into a meditation, like body scan, relaxate, go for a walk, give you space. That could really help you. But again, you will know it's a strong no because it will last for days. If it's just a day that you feel like, oh, what did I do? More than likely the next day, if you're out of it, you'll know. You'll be like, okay, it was just a bad day. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Tasleem. So we can take one more question before we wrap up the session. So if anybody would like to come forward. Okay, so we do have a question. So what about dealing with feeling stuck during COVID times?
Oh man, yes, absolutely. So much stuckness. A lot of the stuckness is, again, that feeling of discomfort. So if you remember when I talked about that contrast, that creates clarity. When we're feeling stuck, it's a good opportunity for us to explore that and just think, what am I feeling stuck about? Like, what would make me feel unstuck? Right now, if I wanted to feel like it, and sometimes the answer could be, if I could just go outside wherever I wanted to without a mask, that would feel great, right? But behind that is something, of course, that's like a lack of freedom. So if you're craving freedom, if we go back to that vibrational scale, that means you're not at the freedom you want to get there. And you may want to explore, where am I now? So if I feel stuck, what's something that can get me going to the next emotion so I can move up that ladder? Because when we're stuck, what we're doing is we're probably sitting in like boredom or uncertainty. We're probably in the middle of that scale. And we just need to find something that's going to help us move to that next rung up the ladder. But unfortunately, because people don't have the tools, or we don't talk enough about the fact that if you don't kind of sit and explore that emotion, you can't get to the heart of it and move on. That's where people just stay stuck and they spin their wheels because they let their monkey minds take over. So that's where I'd encourage you to start, is what would help me feel unstuck right now? Looking at that contrast, what would feel better? Looking at the vibration scale, what are the emotions you're feeling? What is one simple thing you can do to get yourself out of that? And it might be, for some, it can be as simple as, I just wish I could go outside anywhere. Well, what's stopping you from going outside? And maybe that can be a small step towards, feeling some freedom or feeling whatever you want to feel. So yeah, unlocking it, kind of not being afraid to go into that emotion and that stuckness. I bet you there's sadness wrapped up in there. I bet you there's frustration. I bet you there's a lot of low vibrations. I mean, if we look at stuckness, there's all these emotions wrapped up inside. And as we peel each emotion away, your stuckness is going to go away as well.
Thank you so much, Tasleem. And with that, we come to the end of this amazing session. I'd really like to thank you all for joining us this evening. And I'd like to thank Tasleem for joining us and helping us with our intuition. Thank you so much for guiding us and helping us create a relationship with our intuitions. Thank you for that amazing meditation and, calming session. I, for one, feel really relaxed. And I'm sure many of us feel more empowered to become better leaders, better decision makers, and will find some relief from all the stressors in our lives. I'd also like to thank you all for joining us and giving Lean In your time and energy. We really appreciate it. A recording of today's event will be shared with you all in our post-event email. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you in our next event. You have a wonderful evening. And thank you,
Thank
Tasleem.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.